Hi, welcome to episode 2 of the Pearls and Polish podcast. My name is Rachel and I'm coming to you from just outside Sacramento, California. And I'm so excited to do a mid-month check-in, kind of show you things I've been working on and check in with some goals that I started in episode 1 and the beginning of 2022, and just share what I've been doing. So, just to kick it off, for 2022, I set 3 goals for my knitting year. The first one being the make 8 sweaters. So I'm going to make 8 sweaters in 1 year. I have about 6 weeks per sweater. And the first sweater I had shown you was the Aurea cardigan by Megan Nodecker of Pip and Pin. And the yarn I had picked out was a single ply yarn from Rachel of On the Round in Maine. So I started making that sweater, and as I was working on it, just realized the yarn and the pattern just weren't working well together. So I decided not to continue with that project. I'm a big believer in only working on things that you enjoy. And I was not enjoying that pairing of yarn and pattern. So I put that one aside and just moved on to my second pattern that I had picked out. So I started the Sheep Camp Sweater by Jennifer Berg, and she's Native Knitter on Instagram. And I'm gonna pull it out and show you. This is my sweater bag for the year, and one of the girls on my Color Street team contacted me. Her aunt had passed away last year and she was a big crocheter. So she had this bag and she wanted to give it to me since she knew I knit and enjoyed doing that. So it was so sweet of her to reach out and pass that bit of her aunt on to me. So this is my sweater bag for the year. And I've already added some pins. I've got Happy Knits on here, and then 2 pins from the Clever Clove. I think she is on Instagram. Anyone I mention in the podcast, I'll have links to either their websites or their Instagram pages in the comments. So this is the Sheep Camp Sweater, and even though I was a couple days behind, I feel like I've done some good progress. I've only got a couple rows left for the color work, and then I'll be ready to split for sleeves. So I'm really excited how that's going. The yarn I'm using is, let me dig it out of here. I already wound it up. It's right here. But I have the tags. So it's the Pishkun DK from the Farmer's Daughter in Montana, and the 2 colors I'm using are Winter Wolf, which is the gray, and Legend, which is the black. So even though it's a DK, it's 100% Rambouillet, raised in Montana and Wyoming, so it is US grown raised wool, but it's spun at a heavy DK light worsted weight. So because it is a little thicker, to meet yarn gauge, I did have to go up a needle size. So we'll see if I end up using the same amount of yardage for my sweater, since I did have to go up a needle size. But I'm really loving how that's working up. I'm excited to kind of finish that. I'm going into week 4. So like I said, I have about 6 weeks per sweater, which is very doable for me. So even though I lost a couple days on this sweater, I think I'll still be able to meet kind of my personal deadlines. The times that I work on my sweaters are usually in the morning before the kids get up, kind of nap time. My youngest still takes a nap, and after they go to bed and I have some downtime. So those bigger chunks of time that I have set aside for myself, I use for bigger projects like that. For my smaller projects, which moves into goal number 2, is my year of socks with the shop is called La Mercerie. I always want to say it wrong, but I know it's La Mercerie. And the shop owner's name is Jess. And every year she has 12 different yarn dyers, and each one is assigned a color inspiration page and a month, and then they dye their colorways and send them out. So this month is from Grand Wico in New Brunswick, Canada, and I finished my socks. I finished them last night. I had to pull apart the toe and redo the toe about 15 minutes ago, so my ends aren't woven in, but my socks are done. So I still need to weave in my ends, take out all my pins and wash them and block them, but it is 15 days in and my socks are done. So really excited about that. I'll show you one. I love the speckles, just the different color tones, this like burnt orange black at toes and cuffs and heel. There's nothing that I don't love about this yarn and this sock. The pattern I used is called the Slack Tied Socks by Linsey Fowler, and she is Larkspur Knits on Instagram. And I love Linsey's designs. I have done her high desert socks quite a few times. I did a test knit for her for another pair of socks and a hat. I'm planning on doing her Bennett sister shawl at some point this year. So I really love how Linsey designs, how she writes out her patterns. I love her. I wish we were friends in real life. But this particular pattern, it has, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but it has a little ribbing in the back before the heel, and then it's got the same kind of ribbing motif here in the front on the top of the toe and foot. So these are 64 stitches, and I cast on 64 stitches on 2.25 millimeter needles, or US 1. And since learning how to knit continental during the pandemic, my sock knitting has changed a lot. So I went from knitting socks on 2.25 US 1 at 56 stitches, and now I'm just trying to figure out what my comfort zone is. So right now 64 stitches is too tight, 72 stitches is way too loose. I tried 68 stitches and that was still a little too loose. So these are still 64 stitches, but I did the rest of the sock, not including the cuff, on 2.5 millimeter or US 1.5. And I think that is actually going to be my sweet spot, because these fit so much more snugly. And I know as I wear them, they're going to loosen up a bit between washes. So I just need something a little tighter, but not too tight. So I think this is going to work. But anyways, first project of the year done, in the books. So excited about those. So now, since I still have about 15 days before the February colorway comes in, I'm going to work on a pair of socks for my sister. I had gifted her a pair of socks for her birthday in November, and I gave her the yarn tags because I was just so behind with my Advent projects and all the other projects I was trying to figure out before Advent season started. So I started them right away, and I was doing the High Desert Socks by Linsey Fowler, and I ran out of yarn like 3 inches before the toe, and it was devastating. So I had to pull them apart. So now I'm going to start them over. I have a better plan for those. So once those are started, I will share those with you in episode 3. But yeah, it's just nice to finish a project and start a new one. So I get my sock knitting done on all the other downtimes. If I'm watching cartoons with my kids, I'm working on my socks. If I'm sitting at like a Bible study lecture, I'm working on my socks. Same with the pickup line at school. I usually get there early, so I have some time for my socks. Anytime I'm just kind of sitting, I'm usually working on these. And I was also sick at the beginning of January, so I did have quite a bit of time that we weren't really doing anything, or we were just watching a lot of TV because we're all sick, where I was able to really bust through these socks. So definitely recommend this pattern. If you want a vanilla sock with just a little twist in it, definitely check out the slack tied socks. So last goal for the year is my second yarn subscription is with Paisley Knits, and it's the Yarn Club for the Gods. And the first colorway is based off Zeus, but those ship at the end of the month. So I haven't gotten my January colorway yet, but I should have it by episode 3. So as soon as that comes in, I will definitely share it with you. Moving into acquisitions. I know I had said no by 2022. I already ruined that, but I have a good reason. So, like I said, the cardigan I had started wasn't working out, but I really wanted that cardigan. I really wanted in that colorway. So I went ahead and ordered the right yarn for that pattern. So still Rachel from On the Round, still the colorway Beauchamp, but this is on her Nimble sock base. So that's a 85-15 superwash merino nylon blend, fingering weight, 2-ply, 394 yards, 100 grams. So I've got 3 of these. So for my next sweater, I will be casting this on, and all will be right in the world. So for the yarn that I had originally tried using for that cardigan, I'm going to do a couple warm hats and some cowls for myself and for my daughter, because they're single ply yarn. Even though they're really soft, they hold heat in well, they hold warmth in well, which makes them great for hats, scarves, cowls, but not necessarily for garments. They'll be a little too delicate for like a sweater. So even though it didn't go to plan, it's okay. I just adjust the plan and it's fine. So I know made all these promises of not buying anything and I already bought something. That's okay. As far as what I'm watching right now, I'm kind of between shows. So we got HBO for the Harry Potter 20-year reunion show. And Harry Potter started coming out when I was in elementary school. So I grew up with the books, I grew up with the movies. So it was so nice watching just kind of these interviews with the different actors and directors for movies and books that I felt were really part of my childhood, and just kind of getting more behind the scenes and their memories of making these movies. So that was really great to watch. But now that we have HBO, I tried Game of Thrones. I know it was really big a couple years ago and I didn't like it. There was too much shock and awe for me. It's just one of those like, just give me the story. So yeah, wasn't a fan. So then my sister said to try the show Big Little Lies. And for some reason, I thought she was talking about the show Pretty Little Liars, which was out a couple years ago. So I started watching Pretty Little Liars, which is, you know, that kind of mindless TV. And I've been enjoying it and texted my sister, hey, this show is great. She goes, no, wrong one. This other show. So I started Big Little Lies as well, and that's also been really interesting. So that one is based in Monterey, California, which is just a couple hours away from where I live. And just so far it seems like a whodunit type thing. So far so good, but I'll kind of give an update on that later as I watch more of both shows. So as far as what I'm reading right now, I finished the book that I mentioned in episode 1, The Guinevere Deception, and I started the second book, The Camelot Betrayal by Kirsten White, and still really enjoying it. I've read this one before, but I wanted to review the 2 first books before I read the last one. So that one's been nice to kind of read, and by read I mean listen, in the car while I'm out kind of running errands by myself. Usually if I'm up early in the morning, then I'll kind of listen to that. So that's been really nice. So I highly suggest that one as well. But that's kind of all I have. It's kind of a short episode since it is kind of a mid-month check-in. So as far as what I'd love to hear from you, what are your shows right now? Did you try Game of Thrones? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And then how are your 2022 goals going? I know about mid-month the goals start changing or getting left behind. So are you sticking with the goals that you set for yourself for 2022? So thank you for joining me for episode 2. Can't wait to show you just some more finished objects going into episode 3.